And Shatabdi of Walking Bookfairs. I would like to welcome you all to our first literature festival. The first tournament got a month ago, and I'm very happy we have been able to bring together so many people on this one morning. We will start our session at 11, but before that, I would like to invite the Vice Chairman of Cuttack Development Authority, who's partly also the reason why we have found this bookshop in this particular place, to say a few words and inaugurate our festival. Nikhil.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks to Akshay and you for actually pushing everywhere hard. Thanks to people like you, the writer, sir, all of you, and people who admire, who write, who travel. In the administration, we keep getting bogged down with so many other things. We end up not doing the basic things which we are required. So, this is one thing this guy can do. So, I am very happy we were able to do something in Cuttack and do more things here, and we will do more. I promise we will do more. And I am very happy to have all of you here. And hope we will have a good session, and I hope all of you have a good time around Cuttack as well as Bhubaneswar. So, good travel. All the very good. Thank you.
This is we have a culture, and this is a beginning of friendship, and this is between the bookshop and the people who come. This is for you,
Thank you so much.
for each people.
Thank you. That's all I got.
And now you have to give one of these lunches to all the writers in the festival, starting with
Great work, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you. All the best for both the service as well as Thank you. Okay. Please come. Please come. Let them come. Hey.
Sophia, Mariana, Carlotta, please join us. Mariana, who's from Spain, Carlotta, who's also from Spain, and Sophia is from Italy.
Yeah, I already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To be able to travel, but what you end up finding out is that you travel around the world to discover that the best place in the world is where you were born. And all of us, so many people, generations of Indians today have different travel stories to share. The reason why Akshay, Shatabdi and me decided that it would be nice to have a travel writing festival, the first of its kind in India. One was because of the lovely location of this bookshop just above the new bus terminal. And there are very few places in India where there can be this conjunction of physical journeys on the ground floor and a bookshop which is all about the journeys of the imagination on the first floor. That was one. Second, there are very few bookshops in India which are actually mobile. And I don't know if some of you know, but Walking Bookfairs has a long history of setting out on the road to meet the reader, not waiting for the reader to come and see you. During the Balijatra, some of you might have seen an auto rickshaw in the Jatra Maidan, which belongs to the store. And I first met Akshay and Shatabdi 10 years ago when they came to Delhi in their mobile van at the time, which I believe they're sold now. Carrying books around with them, which they would take to all corners of India. And as a writer, I was very impressed that they did not wait for readers to arrive in their shop. They wanted all sorts of people who had no access to a bookshop to be able to know the fun of having one. And for all these reasons, the final idea we had was Cuttack is a city with a great literary heritage of its own. And as much as we want to know about other parts of the world, sometimes what we forget is the city in which we ourselves live. And for that reason, we wanted today to begin with a lecture about the history of Cuttack itself, the memories of the city. Every city, as I know, is something, a physical space and a city that exists in the imagination of those who know a lot about it. So before we go to the travel writing section of our morning's event, I thought we would begin with a talk with the great Cuttack writer and former Vice Chancellor of Ravenshaw University, Dr. Devdas Chopra. Devdas, over to you.
Good morning. I very rarely say good morning because this is my sleeping time. That is why the subject that Chandra has chosen about
But we can't hear you because you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
The title you have chosen is Days and Nights of Cuttack. It suits me because I am awake most of the nights and keep sleeping on most of the days for a very long time. So I got the exposure of both days and nights. As a person who is conscious and awake, particularly now, there is a book on which a film was made by Shri known as Aranya Dindati. Has anybody heard about this? Aranya Dindati. So, like Scottish Dindati. That is what it is. Is this Cuttack is a minority here in the gathering?
Yes.
So that's what it will be very novel and extraordinary to think about days and nights. Now, sometime back, podcasts which are made, you can go to YouTube and find out the podcast. It's like a video. Sometimes with visibility, sometimes only audio. Now, there's a person called, it should be like known, Bhavana Shulaya. Has anybody heard about her? Bhavana Shulaya? Anybody else? Okay. Bhavana Shulaya is a journalist. I have written a lot on Bollywood, Bombay cinema. He wrote a 3-page biography of Amitabh Bachchan. three books, and about others who very well known. You see, once called me and said that they are trying to do and something called the Kavya. Kavya is 25 minutes slot of asking poets to read their poetry and also explain the poetry. I don't know how to whatever can read and why they asked me something which they cannot fathom out. But anyway, so I was in Delhi, so for film, I agreed to that. I have heard about Bhagavad. So it was 25 minutes. One of them was about Cuttack. Where they were to, I belong to. I said, how would you like to introduce yourself? At that time, I had finished my tenure in Riverside University as the Vice Chancellor. So there are many ways to introduce me, but I said, if you ask me for an introduction, I will say that I belong to Cuttack. That's all. This is my name and I belong to Cuttack. So she was more and more interested that we do not want to talk about anything else. I said that Cuttack is so fascinating and actually love with Cuttack. So that is why this is what makes me easy to speak. So he said, why do you love Cuttack and what is so extraordinary about Cuttack? So I told her I'll give you 3 reasons why Cuttack is extraordinary. Because Cuttack is one place where I spent all my life. And one thing distinguishes Cuttack is that the citizens of Cuttack are Kattakis as they are called. They have no ambition. They spend their whole life here without any ambition. Ambition to travel, ambition to do anything, ambition to reach the higher riches of life to touch them. They are just not bothered and they have no ambition to do any pursue. This is a characteristic of people who are in Cuttack. The second thing is, Cuttack has a language of its own. In the sense, all our districts have a different languages. People from Bengala, this particular language is the people in Cuttack form of the Bengala. Or Sambalpur has its own language. Puri has its own language. So Cuttack also has its own language. Because Cuttack has been under the Muslim occupation and Maratha occupation for a large number of years. In fact, the English came here only in, I think, 1905. 1805. 1803. So, and Cuttack is a city of 1,000 years. 989 or 899, whatever disease was Cuttack was established. People can put exact. So we observed 1,000 years of Cuttack several years back. 89. So I think I should mention this to some who are interested in Cuttack. And still on the second point that language in Cuttack and contact here. But when we had this 100 year celebration, then Universe, which had organized this, and one of the senior students of my college, Eleven Center, where Vidya Patnaik was the president, 1955. And he was running the university, organized this kind of institution, and so they brought out two values. 1,000 years of Cuttack. It's a treasure house. If they have a person like you, and if you travel also otherwise, so to get two copies of that, two large, very beautiful tombs, they are there. I'm lucky to have them with you. So, Cuttack was under the Muslim hand for a much longer period than it was under the British. So, in the language of India, there is something, many things are Persian origin, many things are of Hindu origin, and what normally we call it Cuttack. Cuttack is kind of a mixed language which is borrowed a lot from Hindu and Persian. Like Takia is not an Odia word. It's a person who is Bengali, they call it Balis. But we call it Takia because we have borrowed it from Persian. Similarly, Bagicha is not an Odia word. And there will be very fascinating study of how this language has been made. You see, maybe some of you know that Odia is one of the oldest languages of India. It goes back to, let's say, 1200 years or so. There was a way Government of India was trying to find out whose language they will consider as the classical language. The minimum classical language qualification is if the language is old as 1200 years. Tamil became a classical language. Soon after that, I think Karnataki and Malayalam, they have also become classical languages. But Orissa is a classical language, while Bengali is not. And whereas anything modern, anything which has a touch of Renaissance, it has come from the British to us through Bengalis. Because their ship went and touched Hooghly and it became Calcutta. Instead, if they would have stopped at what is that island we have? They are Bengal, there's an island, I'm just forgetting it. Or if they would have come to Jogra, they would have come in Mahanadi and then settled here, like the English settled there. Then you can imagine how Cuttack would have been. Maybe this would have been something like the great cultural setups which the Bengalis were able to establish under the tutelage of the British. They stayed there. I was trying to talk to Chandrahas and said something like a bookshop is of course there, but something like a personal library, one would not find in area homes unless they are very sophisticated, very English educated, maybe like Chandrahas, to Cambridge, but otherwise, finding out a library in area home is not expected. But majority of Bengali homes have their own languages. It's a way of having some degree in a university and getting sophisticated under the or in company of the English. So they have a library in everywhere. Largely. So there is a story which I read in a rural story. They said some people have come to Bengali Jarinda's house and that they had a maid. So they asked that, can you meet the Jarinda? The Jarinda will come. They said he will be informed. Now they said that we had so many books, they went into the drawing room and there were books, but apparently nothing has been read. Only they have been kept like this, with the cover and etc. So he said, is he not reading anything? All the books are here. So the maid tried to protect her boss by saying in Bengali, ও কি ভিখারি নাকি যা থাকবে বাড়িতে সঙ্গে সঙ্গে খেয়ে ফেলবে ঠিক আছে যাতে ইচ্ছা হবে করবে যখন ইচ্ছে না করবে তো এখানে এসে বলবে এই সব বই পড়েছো কিনা ও কি ভিখারি যে বেগার it is somebody who is starving because for a good family so he has good food so when it comes to him to read the books he reads the book joke apart. It also indicates that the Bengali homes have libraries invariably, even the middle class Bengali home, a library and a harmonium, a must. Now all this thing has come because of their being together in the industry for so many years. As a next a few years and that also in a few districts in this. But the Muslims have followed in the second point, telling him that what is the language, how the language of Turkey is different. The language of Turkey is different because it's a mix of Persian, it's a mix of Iranian, it's a mix of Maratha word called Pani. Maratha is called Pani. In no other language except Punjabi, I think Pani is called Pani. Everywhere it is called Pani. The Maratha say Pani, Oriya say Pani, Bengali will not say Pani. So this is Bengali of course it's a job. So the point is that so many, I mean, you can call it cultural, it will be one of our other cultures, language and food and etc. So it's a cultural import or whatever you call it. And Oriya language has so much that many other state languages do not have. So this is a specialty of Oriya language. When you speak and it has, in writing there is no halal, but Cuttack language there is something full of halal, so it ends up very fast. And some language like Sola is not even a Gali. That's not what it is. It's not Gali. It's a Indian word. You call your friend, you call your friend's friend, and he speaks so if you want something. And Sola is not Sola. He is used liberally in Patri. You meet at some other place, you listen to it. In anything, suppose a glass falls off your hand or a book falls off your hand, then my immediate exclamation will be just so. You fell down. It's small. And you have to use just so. Maybe your father is there, your mother is there, the whole house is there. And just so. So this is something which attracts me to Cuttack. I was answering Bhavana Solan because he asked me, what are these? He said, why are you attracted to Cuttack? What is so extraordinary? So I told him, these are a set of people who do not have any ambition. Many of them did not go beyond Cuttack station. And of course, after Bhubaneswar being made, there is a draw towards that, and I always say that Bhubaneswar has been made by ruining Cuttack in many ways. There has been only a 1 year march towards Bhubaneswar because of job, because of government, because of politics, and we do not have anything from Bhubaneswar as yet. So, in a small essay, I wrote that that Cuttack Lunthanare Bhubaneswar Bhubaneswar has been made by plundering Cuttack. Because when I was in Cuttack as a student, I always been in Cuttack. But so there are so many things in Cuttack. The bureaucrats, senior IAS, IPS officers. Of course, education is Revensa. Nothing was beyond Revensa. That was in Cuttack. The business and theatre, cinema, everything cultural, everything was in Cuttack. Gradually, it kept on going to Bhubaneswar. So the police DG was here. In my time, I don't know if he has shifted, and they have made a beautiful building. Police building, have you seen that? People police commissioner's house. Have you seen that building? That should be made into the house of culture. The way the building has been made, very difficult to accept it as a Buddhist building in Bhubaneswar. So the DG is also going perhaps. Except the High Court is only one. So that is why we have got lawyers. And the judges, so that is why wherever they take, and many judges belong to Cuttack, that they do not take the official decisions, they stay in their own decisions and obtain what we call I'm not call it a judicial, because they stay in their own houses and must be getting house rent allowance. So you get house rent allowance, you go there, and if the judges house rent you there, you be sure that there will be no roadblock, cars will be allowed and not to be allowed to make this lordship to go to office or to conduct an office. So this minimum is there, so that stays on, whether you like or do not like it, as long as they have to be here. But otherwise, everything is going to be towards the capital. Now, for the roads, so that is one thing. So, and for that, what is that? I'm not concerned about what is the third point. Like I think how much why is this and why is the language is like this. And I'll come back to it. Strikes me to tell me that how Cuttack is so very extraordinary for me. And even if I have spent most of my time after I graduated and took a job and went outside Odisha. So I only came here during holidays because my parents were here, so as often as possible, particularly when they feel ill, and some of things because nobody was here, so I would come. But otherwise, I stayed out. But I always say that I stayed out, but I had always carried Cuttack with me. I carried Cuttack with me because of the language. I mostly speak my mother's area. So when I see the new element and she will study because he knows the sounds of the Buddha and many other things which you can call in many villages. before their marriage and even after their marriage. They remember. Even if they are not going to write them out, they will remember and speak it up. So that language of my mother, I always carry with me when I write something. The language of Cuttack, I also carry with me. And I also carry the pan and bundi from Baksibazar. Then the pan are called tisu. Tisu is red, the sun is red. But after a month he took me to that place and made me eat pan and make a habit of it. And even our houses, my mother used to prepare pan. One of the qualifications of a marriageable girl is not study, not anything, but how good she is making the pan. So when from my father's side, people went to see my mother in village. So my mother brought them pan in a platter and some pan, made of pan, looked like a fish. It's easy to make a fish. And my mother not only made fish, she also made aeroplanes with pans. And my father said that great interest and look at this girl, and she is making such beautiful pan, with pan masala, etc. So pan was there in our house. So when I started taking pan from Baksibazar or elsewhere or wherever I went, I started taking pan. Although it was converted, although it can be cancerous, I am not advocating pan at all, but I am a pan addict. I can admit that without persuading me to take pan. So when I went to Pavan, is a big music director and he writes for cinema, composed for cinema, and a great local artist. In Cuttack, everybody knows him, Pavan, and Cuttack. So when I went to him, then I had carried a few poems or lyrics in my hand, so that if you could find them, you can read it and if you can see in one of them, you know, life is revealed. So he read them. He said, I didn't think you would be writing such songs. I had read one of your poems in Prajatantra on Sunday issue. I thought you would be much older. Yeah, I had gone there because I had not gone to my college. So if you do not go to college, in Cuttack you do not get a cycle and you do not get a full time. You have to keep wearing half pants, and the first thing you get if you go to college is a new cycle. So that is running good or whatever. So I had been to there because I got finished first year in the last year. So Pavan asked me, he said, do you take pan? I said, no, I talk of pan. And then he said, have you fallen in love? So I was still in my husband cycle and I finished school. So I did not know what they said to me. I said, no, I stoutly denied that I have ever done that major mistake. And the positive is not common, ever taking pan. He said, these two are the things which are necessary. He said, then how can you write lyrics? How can you write songs? It is very essential that you must take time, bada time, a lot of time, and you must follow that. Otherwise you cannot. So he took me to that at Shri in Kalyan, and made me eat my first pound of vegetable. I almost fainted with the first pound. I had taken a cycle, but I came a rickshaw. Another friend who brought my cycle up. That was my first instance of abiding by Author Manju's dictates. One is you must be Padhaka. And I will not tell you what I all went through when I tried the second one for following that. I did not elaborate it anymore. But these are the kind of things which can happen and which one learns of Cuttack and comes to love it. It's a summer country. India is a summer country. Cuttack becomes with both the rivers and blue sides, but in summer it becomes absolutely unbearable to go to sleep. So the answer is, I do not sleep. It's easy to read a book or see a film. Even if you can go out, sometimes we go out late in the night at 2 o'clock taking a cycle, go around the city, and I have been better here, not God, but better here. I consider that as very, very safe. So I can walk from station to Aramkand Bazaar, which is my house, in the 3 o'clock in the night, without bothering that anything will bother me except the dogs. And when I reach Aramkand Bazaar, I find that as usual, about 12 to 15 dogs are guarding my house and the street. It's maybe like this in other streets also. And these dogs only bark at the police, not at the thief or anything. Police is a God made thing, so they cannot go that way. And of course, if I come back, they take no notice of me because they have seen me for the last 60 years. And so, they are free. So this is the Cuttack I have grown up, and these are the days and nights of Cuttack. It will actually take days and nights to talk about them. Thank you very much, Akshay, and all of you. Maybe minority of them are from Cuttack. So you have listened to me, given me so much of attention, and be glad to thank you so very much.
Because I would thank you very much, but we are not going to let you go so easily because all the things that you have said have raised more questions in the minds of people here. And I have to say, as travel writers, when sometimes I give these classes on travel writing, people are interested, and students ask, when we arrive someplace, what should we do? And my advice to them is, try as quickly as possible to find a local who knows a lot about the history of the place as your introduction to a place. And in that sense, I can't imagine something as pleasurable as something as what you've just said to us. Everything from the reminiscences of being a young man here, and I particularly enjoyed your story of when you start to feel like an adult person in the city in which you grew up. And often, many writers have a certain mentor figure in their life. So I did know these stories of your friendship with Kalyan and Shri. So there must be many people here who also have something about Cuttack which they want to ask about or would like to ask Development about. So if someone would like to ask a question.
So namaskar. So have also been born and brought up here in Cuttack as well. And my question to you is that the Cuttack that you have seen while growing up was a different Cuttack than what we are seeing while growing up. So there's a movement of the city, like from the old times to the new times. There's been development, and probably it's the development is going towards like how Bhubaneswar has changed. We can see the difference in the old town and the Patia area. There's a stark difference. So, do you feel saddened by how the times are changing and how Cuttack is changing along with the development as well?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, it's a good question. The way or in the manner Cuttack has changed most for me is the model of life. In my opinion, you see, when I came to Cuttack, I was perhaps 4 years old. So my mother told me don't touch the electric poles. But there may be electrocution. Then my mother was, of course, afraid of everything and would not make me do anything. If my mother would see a truck passing in front of our house, then she would think, Acha, this Babu has taken the cycle and gone there. When will this truck cross there, they will cross each other. I hope everything is safe. So my mother was like that. She said, don't touch the electric pole. And I have seen the telephone legs and telephone poles being added to the electricity and more telephone lines being everywhere. But Cuttack was silent because there used to be mixers which are hand ground, and I don't know how many of you have seen or used a hand ground mixer. Mixer is a Japanese word, it is not an Oriya word, and perhaps it came from Japan or similar such places and became an item of export here. But there is no this great buses running everywhere and the kind of horrendous horns they have, which will make people absolutely stunned. So they are at the most towards cycle bells. The bells with the cap, and then you make it the cycles, and so that was the height of the sun. But here there used to be some people, gas lamps, gas lights, and so the person will come, he climb on the pole, he put the grass and light it up. Instead of electricity. So the Afghan about whom I can talk to you about, he had a childhood ambition that he would be a gas light bulb. So that when he grows up, he will change the gas and light up that place. Basically, in order to light up the whole world, he thought that this is a key process that I will keep the gas lights on this place. But this electronic sign, I don't know if you who are electronics. Just like we have got LED bulbs right now, than our old electric bulbs. What has become so completely dazzling and different is the physics of sound. Sound has gone up many times from where it was once. So with very little effort, you can make a lot of sound. So that is why now you can see when the marriage procession goes, so all kinds of sound instruments are there. Earlier it used to be some drums and some kind of what you call trumpets that the procession, but now they are magnified electrically. And if the person is singing, then he sings 50 times more the sound that you ordinarily sing. And what is worse, that if you are making Ganesh Puja or any Puja, so the Brahmin of my time and the Brahmin now. In my time, there used to be a lamp and at some point of time, it continues going. But in whatever of your time and also my time now, the priest comes and he has got a what we call tape recorder, or in which the entire Ganesh Vandana or Durga Vandana or whatever he wants to play is recorded. So he puts it on, then closes the door and goes to sleep. And till he comes back next morning at 8 o'clock, this one is going on and on and on. Nobody can stop it. It requires a lot of sound regulation to manage that nowadays, but it is very difficult because do not sleep in the night. Somebody tried to close down the pawn shops at the network. The pawn shops stopped. They don't know what the people do. And then Dr. Bhata, we are not going to cheat you. But you look at article, he said Cuttack is like Banaras. It's a nice city. It can go on and on. You cannot get a mad superintendent police doing battles and asking people to stop and sending them inside the house. No, it cannot happen like that. So neither you can stop the sound, nor you can stop the people awake throughout the night, because Cuttack has these kind of compulsions. And so one thing which is very distinct is the loudness of the sound, which has gone up many times. And even if you go in the daytime, they put the electricity down, they put one of those things by which you can the electricity is out, then you take what? What is that? Yes. So every shop has one of them. And if you keep running it, you cannot stop, you cannot listen to anything so much in this time. That has not changed much in terms of what we call the poisonous gas or something. It's still very good. And maybe in other places, the air of Cuttack is very good. But sound is one thing which makes it really a big disturbance. That's what I recall.
Any more questions? Yes.
Hello. Sir, namaskar. Sir, I'm a fan of yours from Bhubaneswar. Sir, because you are mentioning about Cuttack, I think it's incomplete if you don't mention about Mallika. So I have gone through all your interviews and the idea of Mallika has fascinated me so much. So I wanted to ask you, like, how did you come up with that concept, and if you would recite a few lines from that poem, if you remember, that would be great.
Hello. No, again, you are asking about the character of poem or poems which I have written about, of course, named after Nandita. And that was taken. You remember I told you, Pavan told me that you must take Badapan, Gardapan, and you must fall in love. It's not like you can take a record and put it on when love begins. So many things will have to be done. One of them is to introduce yourself and obtain the identity of the poet, because if you are a poet, then there are different chances of words being attracted towards you. I was writing, I was just like you said, I was happy to. I would have been much happier if you were placed in the girls in that. So you see, that is how I wrote the poem called Nandita, which is totally fictitious. And I sent it to the papers. Nowadays there is a Facebook, one has to send it to the literary paper, which comes out every Sunday. And I was lucky for a budget. And since then till now, I have written a Nandita series, which has become a complete book. It was available. And maybe it will another book that can continue to write. So, Nandita is a fictitious character, is not about any single person, but whenever I meet, particularly a girl, I try to fit in my mind's makeup, calculation, and how much she is close to my concept of Nandita. My concept of Nandita is a dark color, or what we call in India, Sabana Revolution. Not very fair, but a very dull complexion, and this is that most of the Indians like same sadhana, and so that is why the Nandita, the principal character in the voice, is also sadhana, and she has a face which does not forgive. So, if they say big combination, so the face which doesn't easily forgive. So you cannot make any mistakes with it. So that is how it is.
Anyone else?
How about?
Namaskar, sir. I want to say that Cuttack is known for a silver city. I want to say that why it was named a silver city, what made the Cuttack people to encourage to act upon the silver work, as silver is precious. Everyone won't afford it, but I know that in Cuttack there are some of the people are there who cannot afford silver things as popular as a rich person, but they used to do the act of the silver. I am from Jasper. My curiosity is that why Cuttack use that focus on the silver, not gold or any less precious metal. I know, but I asked most of the people of Cuttack, but I didn't get appropriate answer which gives me satisfaction about that quote.
Okay.
Cuttack is known as a silver city, perhaps when we went to celebrate 100 years of Cuttack. In my school, in my college days, I had never heard that Cuttack is silver city. I know that Cuttack has the one to this culture, and all that what we do as a heavy culture. Really, Cuttack is also feeling. Now, you might have heard something called mica. Mica, a mineral which used to be for your face creams and stuff like that. And then it has many other industrial uses. And so, Malta is very bright and it doubles. In fact, Malta is in Hazaribagh in that area. Malta is available. Used to be available. So, given Hazaribagh, I was deputy commissioner of Dhanbad. I used to drive on that road to reach Dhanbad. And the whole road will be full of Malta dust. Now there is none. Malta business is over. So many poems written about words translated as Malta will not make any meaning because that original thing is gone. So they found out some industrial substitute for Malta. So nobody uses the word Malta, nobody uses it. Similarly, with Philippines. Now, it requires a lot of independent research, investment, craftsmanship to push the Philippines high up. What has happened? The Philippines have done 5 areas but marketed by Gujaratis and other commercially prudent and clever communities of Cuttack. And since Odisha is not known, I found out that somewhere in United States, long time back, I had been and there was an exhibition which I told. So somebody has taken from our Adivasi exhibition area lots of things and they have a price tag on that. If it is 100 rupees here, then he was selling it at $100. He did not even change the price tag because it came. So perhaps he doesn't know how to write dollar. So he bought them and took it to that place. And so if things continue to be like this in business and commerce, where the sensitive arts and crafts are like this filigree involved. So it was a sort like unless you provide a market for this. Because of the filigree work, they are saying silver city. But either it was not earlier there in our time, or it will still go unless you find out the market for filigree. More than filigree, I thought Cuttack has potential to be an academic hub for eastern part of the country and also for South Asia. When I was in Odisha, quite some students came to study here from Sri Lanka, from Afghanistan. We had more than 100 and odd foreign students. So that is an area in which Odisha has great possibilities of becoming a hub of education. It will be fine. Other handicrafts are fine. But I think this is a much bigger market. It becomes an educational hub. But that has that possibility because how many universities are there? With the Sai University there, with the Law University there, with the Development University, second campus is there. So this is large. It can be developed. And this can be developed if you have private, public partnership. So you go to Mitsubishi or you go to some company and you ask them what exactly do you need and how many do you need and what will be the education. We will prepare that. We will prepare to teach that kind of subject in second campus, and so that they can contribute towards scientific research and eventually production of those things. That will be a much bigger thing, I suppose, than city and then this very romantic, silver city where So that is how it is. Thank you.
Okay, it's 12 o'clock and that's as much as we have time for. Thank you to all of you in the audience who asked excellent questions. I have a few myself which I cannot ask anymore. But I think this was a very good start, and if you like, I think we could always bring Dekas Babu back another morning for a discussion where we all sit around instead of having this sort of setting, and there's so many other topics to discuss. So we will take a break for 10 minutes in case you want to have some more tea, and we'll please be back, those of you who want to attend the next session by 12:15 because we want to keep you time. Dekas Babu, thank you so much for starting us off with wonderful. Round of applause.
What 10 minutes?
First of all, I want to welcome my very good friends Raja, who there's a city that we share, that is Bombay, and Bhubaneswar Mishra. We have got some idea of Dekas Babu's popularity by the simple maths of the difference of the audience today, but that's only because some of you do not know the stories and the journeys of Rajat and Bhubaneswar. And they've both written a travel book each, and although I'm a travel writer myself, I've never actually managed to produce a travel book. And one reason why I admire the two of you, I should say, is that both of you managed to write a travel book when you were still in your 20s. And that is not an easy thing to do. First of all, although India has written many genres, and that is something I also want you to think about, for some reason, we don't really have a tradition of travel writing. Right? And so many of the great travel books on India are, they are undoubtedly great, but they're written by people who are not Indian. Or maybe they became Indian in the process of writing it. There's no reason why these should be matters of passports. But sometimes we think of travel writing as simply the record of what you experienced when you went somewhere. I think it is a little bit sharper than that. And some of the great travel books, the idea behind them seems very self-evident, but clearly they are not, because they are often, it's only when you see the book that you realize what a great idea is contained within it. And that's why I want to begin with you, Rajat. For most of our childhoods, all of us who live in India have always on highway journeys seen these giant elephants and whales of the Indian roads, without ever crossing that barrier that seems to lie behind these very brightly painted facades. And even it had never occurred to me that there could be such an interesting story hidden in your idea for Truck Day India. And I have to say that your introduction to your book is one of my favorite pieces of travel writing ever. Because this travel writing, I think, is a coming together of two things: a certain place or an experience, and a certain very deep and perhaps long-stored desire to activate that potential that somehow it is a kind of meeting. Dekas was always talking about, the wanting to fall in love but not knowing how to get started. Well, travel writing is about feeling that there could be something in here and then doing the work to get started. So can I ask you to briefly sort of recapitulate your inspiration in setting out to write this book? And I would also like to know, what is the difference between traveling and travel writing?
I rode Shri across India for around 10,000 kilometers over 6 months. So this was like asking about the inspiration. Like, I was born in Mumbai, and Mumbai is just too cramped, and I always sort of ate for those open landscapes of the Indian highways, And I fundamentally, by nature, like since I was a child, I was a restless soul in a sense. I was eager for new horizons and new landscapes. And as I grew up over the years, I decided to go into journalism, like perhaps propelled by this curiosity. And this is the book. And And I thought, what better way to explore India than traveling with those who call its highways home, like the truck drivers of India. There are a lot of hidden stories because often what goes unappreciated is that if there were no truck drivers, India would not be as it is today. We would not get our food, we would not get our supplies on time. They are crucial to the functioning of the Indian economy in a way possibly no other profession is. And yet, so very little had ever been written about them. And I feel the same goes for many other professions, many other regions of India which have not been written, which have not been captured in literature in that sense. Like, you think about many big cities like Paris or New York, and suddenly you have these impressions, these images that come through literature, through movies, and so on. But there's so many interesting things in India that have never been brought down in that sense on paper in a format that people can actually consume and experience without actually going to those places or being in those landscapes. I think travel writing, in a sense, is a way to achieve that. It is to transport you not just into a different landscape, but also, if done well, possibly into the mind of another person, into the very life of another person who has lived a life completely different from yours, who possibly has nothing in common with you. But travel writing offers this chance to empathize with the world at large. I feel it can help cultivate a sense of empathy for people who are not like you, have done nothing what you have. So for me, travel writing was all this and more. And for personally, I feel that travel writing historically has had a use that is more profound than anything else. In fact, travel writing is a way for historians to recreate the past, and it has been for the longest time. Like right from Yuan Sang's travels in India, or Marco Polo's travels in Asia, or Ibn Battuta's travels across Africa and Europe and India and all across Asia. These accounts still serve as a primary source for what those regions were like. And I feel that what I wanted to do with this book, in a sense, was just to capture what the lives of Indian truck drivers were like. What was the life of these people like in the early 21st century India. It's just a snapshot of a time. Those things may have changed from what I have experienced, but this is a snapshot of a period, of a profession, of a time in the country. So these were my broader ambitions with the book. And I think I'll stop there.
Can you tell us something about the practical aspects of travel writing? When you set out that trip, did you already know what route you would take, how long it would take, what was your budget, what were your surprises along the way?
So, travel writing, I feel like slowly I've begun to think that the more difficulties you go through in a journey often, the more interesting it is for the reader in a way. Though the trick there, or the trap you can fall into is making travel writing just an account of yourself, of the difficulties you endured in order to write that book. There is that trap which you can fall into when you're just writing about, okay, I went through this. But for the reader, I feel often there needs to be some kind of knowledge, some kind of empathy, empathetic narrative which can drive them forward, So that is also important, otherwise travel writing can be banal. And as far as your question is concerned, when I set out, I was a reporter. I was a journalist for Outlook magazine, and at that time they commissioned me to go on this journey. It was a wild idea. And I went to my boss and I told her that, sorry, I'm going to quit this job because I want to travel with truck drivers. Actually, like, are you crazy? So why don't you just write a series of articles for us instead, and you can take your salary while you're on the job. So that was a very generous offer that actually changed my life. And so my budget was threadbare. Like, it was like there was literally no budget. I had some salary, but I chose, my conscious attempt was, I want to live a life that is as close as possible to that of a truck driver. So that can't mean that I'm traveling in a truck and next day I'm staying in some 3-star or 5-star hotel. So this thing was, I'm going to stay in the lodges where the monthly rent like the daily rent is not more than 500 rupees. So this meant places that I've never stayed in my life before, but that was only the kind of places I stayed in. And there were a lot of surprises because this entire trip was spontaneous, and like I consciously chose that there should not be any plan as such, because that ruins the spontaneity and also the experience for the reader. So what I used to do was, initially I had no idea how do I actually practically carry out this project, like how do I actually hitchhike with truck drivers. So finally I decided on 2-3 strategies. One was that every city has a transport nagar. And transport nagars are where the entire goods business, the warehousing business, the trucking business, they are all concentrated in the transport nagar. So one strategy was I would go to these transport nagars, try to convince some truck driver or some consignment agent to allow me to tag along. This turned out to be trickier than I expected because trucks would often wait for days for their bar to arrive. It's a very, there's no guarantee. So finally I decided I would go to a dhaba or I would go to a petrol pump, and if there are any truck drivers stationary, I would go ask them, hey, this is my project, I'm writing about what difficulties you face in your daily life, about your life. And if you would just allow me to tag along wherever you are going, I will be okay. So most of them would agree actually. The typical process would be barely 15 minutes or so, and I would manage to find someone who would be going in the general direction I want to go to. So that was the rough process. Food and all, I used to just be with the driver, so whatever they eat in the dhabas, which is surprisingly good. I realized like maybe dhabas enjoy a undeserved reputation for not being so clean and all, but in general I felt the food was fresh, made there and then, and not once did I get a stomach ailments throughout my journey. So yeah, that's all.
Jimnasha, I'm going to come to you. I didn't believe until I saw your book that it would be possible because your idea is a very intriguing concept, both going somewhere but also having a home in that place and work in that place. Almost like an elevated example of the daily wager. And this involved a different kind of planning and strategizing, and I was very interested as soon as I saw your book of working out what was your method to already have someone waiting for you when you got to a different state. But there's something beyond just the catchiness of your title. What made you come up with this idea of wanting to? Was it the concentration of the travel that you would in a single year go to the entire country? And maybe you can also do some of your talking over here for those people who want to hear you over here.
Hello. Actually, 2013 जब मुझे थोड़ा आरंभ करती थी, तब बहुत लोगों के साथ हम डिस्कस करते हैं। समस्त लोगों ने प्लस टू सरी के बाद most of the people want to do either engineering or medicine. Okay, so our objective is to like inspire the youngsters that what you really want to do, you should do instead of going any like stereotypical profession of engineering or medicine. And this is actually this 28 jobs, 28 weeks, 28 states is a part of 1 week job project, and we did in 5 countries actually. And in USA someone else did that. In Canada some ICANN has done this same exploration, and in India actually I did. So their concept is like 52 weeks, 52 jobs throughout the year. Here in India, I thought, okay, why not doing one job in every state of India? And that's how my journey was started. To just inspire the youngster to whatever the profession they want to do, they do. So our tagline used to be like, discover your passion and live with it. And so next come to the point like my book, the whole experience. So whenever I travel to a different state, my first priority was to experience the best of that state. Like in Goa, working with a tattoo artist. In in Amritsar, Punjab, actually, I did Kar Seva in the Golden Temple. In Maharashtra, actually, that time, actually, the Nukira film, Sonaki Sinha and Ranveer Singh, the movie was released. So I used to do the whole event things for that. And Himachal Pradesh, actually, I was working as a mountain cleaner. There was a German lady called Jodi Underhill. She started an NGO called West Valleys, whose primary objective is to clean up the Baksuna and Dharamsala area. And so, like that, actually, there are many experiences. You can say in Banaras, the Tibetan God actually aspirated for me. In Bihar, I used to sell condoms. So that's a very new experience for me to convince the farms and beauty partners to sell condoms. Actually, it was a government initiative that for like so the condoms were available to different part of the rural India, and that we used to convince different farms to keep the stock of condoms. So, like that in northeastern states also, I had a good experience. In Manipur, I was working as a journalist. In Mizoram, I was a bullet mechanic. And Nagaland, I was looking for like to work in a gun house factory, but I could not convince anyone. So finally, I was working in a like grocery shop. So one very interesting experience in Arunachal Pradesh is like I was a storyteller in Pavan monastery. It is one of the beautiful monasteries in the world after Lhasa, and so this is the whole. I could say the experience about the whole.
I'm tremendously impressed at the range of professions because I think the easier step for you to have done would be try to do the same thing everywhere, and that would be very comfortable. But did you feel out of place ever in some of these places, and was that because of the place, or I'm interested to know, for instance, what your co-workers during this 1 week where you would like to overlap with this, how they responded to you, and what sort of relationship you struck up with people? Is there something interesting that you can tell us about that?
So whenever you go for a corporate jobs kind of thing, so it's very difficult that people will accept you for a 1 week job. So they will say, what is the benefit for us? So whenever I go for the corporate jobs of 1 week, even the co-workers are very skeptical. So what will it was a good line. It's a good So, but once I convinced that the whole idea is to spread some message to the youngster, then most of the founders agree to offer 1 week job, and so like you asked me, I feel outside that. So whenever there was a rejection, I feel outside. Like in Nagaland, actually, I was trying to go for. I tried to convince a lot to work in gun factory because in Nagaland it's very easy to get a gun license, and even in Chennai there is a big crocodile band is there. I want to work as a volunteer over there in that crocodile band. There used to be like 5,000 crocodiles in that band. So that also I could not prove. So I was like selling peanuts in the Medna beach, Chennai. So that's how.
A question I'm sometimes asked by students is, especially when I talk about travel writing, is, sir, we are very introverted and we don't like, we don't know how to, we like meeting people, but we don't know how to make an opening into a conversation with someone else. Is this something that I could hear your thoughts on? Does one have to either be or force oneself to be more extroverted or outward reaching as a travel writer, and what advice can you give young people who also want to do something that takes them out of their comfort zone but feel there is hesitation inside their head? Is it something only of the mind, or are there some real barriers that you have to overcome?
So I would also term myself an introverted person. I'm not particularly extroverted. But yeah, I would say yes, in a sense, what needs to come across when you're interacting with strangers is the genuineness and sincerity of your intentions and the curiosity to know about someone's life. Someone's life, not just, I mean, it could right be from their childhood. And the way to trick is to, like, I think, just ease yourself into an interview method where you slowly from the mundane facts of daily life, you move to their character, to their personality itself, how it was shaped, about their childhood. And people are very interesting things to shape. Because they have never been asked this question in a sense. What was their childhood like? Possibly they never even thought about it after going through that. So once you start reflecting on these questions, many interesting answers come about, and becomes an enjoyable experience both for the interviewer and the interviewee. So as far as the club show is concerned, I used to be stuck in a club with some person whom I have never met before for up to 24 hours. And for me, therefore, making conversation was, I mean, the opportunity were endless. Like, I literally had hours and hours to really get to know another person. This can be a challenge in other settings of travel writing where your encounter with someone may be more fleeting, where you don't really have the chance to actually, how do you even paint a pen portrait of someone, right? Like, without actually even getting to know them. So I was lucky in that sense that I had hours and hours with people to just interrogate them about anything that came to my mind. And during these times, I am not me per se. I am just a receptacle through which it's like, so from their mind, the answer flows down to my notebook. In that sense, I just want to know as a journalist, I'm no longer a journalist, but I think asking questions is a primary skill, right? In that sense, how to ease someone, how to make them comfortable, and it comes with practice. And I think that would be my advice that there is no harm is going to come out of you in a sense. For young people who may be hesitant, who may be introverted, all you require is a little bit of confidence, a pen and like a small notebook in your hand, and you will be able to get any interview you want, pretty much. You just need that words.
Could we have that phone off, please?
This is a very good question actually. I mean, like, to be an extrovert, it's very easier for the person to like travel around and mix up with people. But being an introvert, the same thing, like you said. But when you started the conversation, the initial conversation is the icebreaker thing actually. After that, actually, I mean, once you start the conversation and you have enough time, like you are not finishing the conversation within 15 minutes or 20 minutes. You are traveling throughout the country. So whenever you have it doesn't matter for the introvert also. I mean, people always love to listen your part of stories also, and that's how you create your own set of friends. Being an introvert also, you create your own set of friends whenever you travel. And I'm lucky that I can say I have like many friends in most part of India. And since I have stayed like in northeastern state, I've stayed in in a Mizoram in a professor's house. So they don't believe themselves as Christian. Like most of the people think that Mizoram is 98% Christians. Yeah. So but they believe that they are Jews. And there is a community called Manas. And the Manas community claim themselves they are Jews. And before 2014, in 2012 or 13, like 4,000, 5,000 people, they migrated from Israel to Israel. And they took up their citizenship. So you need to learn a lot of stories from that. And what is their anger to the government also? Like if the government is throwing bomb at your homes, I mean, for different circumstances, whatever the insurgency, they try to justify their insurgency. Why insurgency started in some part of the country? Then you say, so their counter narratives also you have to listen and understand. Like for example, one more similar story I want to share. People from like Jammu and Kashmir. Like here also we have NCC. They also join NCC. Okay. During Kargil war, the people with whom I used to work as a rafting training, like we used to do like whitewater rafting in Jammu and Kashmir. That guy, obviously after 2 like this kind of stories comes out. So this guy said, okay, we used to do some kind of NCC camp in Kerala, and while coming back to home, in Delhi, police is taking these people are from Jammu and Kashmir and they are very skeptical about it. So they said, hey boss, we are in NCC camp, we will, so that is part of the government, and they said, and no, in Jammu and Kashmir you cannot go there right now. So these people try to convince that the war is happening in Kargil, nothing is happening in our places. So this thing happens. So they have their anger towards what they have faced. So this kind of counter narrative is very important when you travel. Since we are staying in Odisha, okay, we do not have any experience of like India, Pakistan partition. So we just watch films and think, hey, what is that? I mean, watching Gadar film or maybe a book by Pushpan Singh or something like that. But the person who has migrated from Pakistan during the migration, so what is the anger in them? If you hear them, then you'll understand that what actually they have gone through. So these are actually, I feel, I learned during the travel. And one more thing that whenever you travel, you cannot ignore. I mean, like in Tripura, you cannot ignore the red flags all around the places in Tripura. Right now, you can see multiple colors. They are changing, but you cannot ignore that. And similarly, in Kerala, one strange thing I experienced that in the boathouse, I had experienced 1 week in the boathouse in Kerala. That every person gets equal salary. Whether you are 4 years experience, whether you are 10 years of experience in the boathouse, whether you are a fresher. So that symbolizes the communism. Okay. And like if you travel to Kolkata, you can see a series of like balloons. You can see in the market. So that shows the perfect competition of economics. So these are the actual fields wherever you travel. So that's my learning from this journey, and that's
wonderful, wonderful. From listening to you, I realized that one of the best things about traveling, even in one's own country, is the ability to make these fine distinctions that you do not learn from books. These are things that only derive from experience, and they may be only true as of the last 6 months or the 1 year. There's always a new set of circumstances coming into being. But it also strikes me that before you had not met any of the ODI travel writers, and when you went on a journey 10 years ago, I think you would have found that even now most Indians do not have a friend from Odisha, or do not personally know a person from Odisha.
So there are so many stories. I mean, like right now, after this Instagram comes into picture and people are traveling and making reels, people are saying, oh, this is not Leh Ladakh, this is Gachoti district. Okay, so but travelers are always there. Like Rajat has said, travelers are always there from the Wilson era. The only thing they didn't have is like they don't have any Royal Enfield bullet and this. What names pick up with everything. It's a commercial creation of travel these days. But travelers are always there.
Rather, you and I must know the same feeling of being travel writers, that the same experiences that are so wonderful, so fresh, so vivid and so memorable on a Monday, if you don't note them down, then by Tuesday evening they're all disappeared into the mist, and the pleasure of one day erases the memories of the previous one, and that is both the happiness of traveling and the risk of it. So, in that sense, travel writing is one of those few genres where the travel and the writing have to be, if not done simultaneously, at least must have the drafts of some idea of experiences to be able to write up later. Can you tell, especially those who are the younger people in the audience, what is the discipline or the labor of being a travel writer? What schedule do you need to keep? There must be days when you're absolutely top tired, you still have to sort of write up everything, isn't it?
So I think do not rely ever on your memory. That's the first piece of advice I like to give, because memory is very tricky and memory is also very, very unreliable. It will make up things. So for me, when I was traveling for Travel India, I constantly had a couple of pocket notebooks and I would note down literally every single thing I came across. And I had it at my side while I was interviewing a driver in the truck. I would somehow manage to make out what he was saying over the drawl of the engine, and I would write down everything. And not just what he is saying, but your environment around you. Anything that strikes you, it may be a very, very minor detail, but those minor details are what lend authenticity, are what lend, makes the whole picture complete in that sense. So the minorest of minor details, something, or even a feeling that arose in you when you are looking at a scenery. So all those things, not just what is physically out there, but also what that experience arose inside you. So all these things, I was completely unorganized in that sense. Because I would just note down randomly as and when I felt something or as and when I observed something. But at the end of the day, in a couple of days or whenever, I would make it a habit to note down whatever I've written in my terrible handwriting in that notebook, make it a fair piece in your laptop or your mobile, wherever you want to. Now the options are endless. So just make it relatively fair in the sense that don't just have a word to go by. Because if you're looking at that word a month from now, you won't even know what you were thinking when you wrote down that word. So at least once a week or at least 2-3 days, once in 2-3 days, or best every day. Just whenever you're on an assignment for a piece of travel writing, just make those notes, refine them, and ultimately these notes are what will become your final book. Without these notes, I would not have possibly written that book, because I wrote the book for 3-4 years down the line after actually traveling in the sense. So without those notes, I would not know what to write. I would not know the first thing what am I supposed to write exactly. So yeah, this is the key to actually to becoming a travel writer, is knowing what to take down notes for and how to organize them, so that when at a point you're ready to write that book or when you're ready to write that piece, it's all there. And sometimes you find that what you have written is what is all that remains of your memory in that sense. Because you will realize what you have written down has actually created that memory. Because memory in that sense is a very tricky beast. Memory is not you remembering something. Memory is actually you remembering something, So it's the last time you thought about something is what you remember when you're remembering something. So it's a notebook is your best friend and all that.
Tremendous. I think so. It was worth coming all this way just to realize that what you have written is what has created the memory. Minash, do you have something to add?
Same thing. Memory, you need to keep documents. If you read the last page of my book, when I finished the journey and started going through my bags, all the small bus tickets, train tickets, and whatever small documents I could keep, I had in my bag. So that actually it will help to write actually. And also scribbling a few lines whenever I found time actually. And that's the only way you can finish up the book when it starts writing. Actually, I took 1.5 years at one stretch actually. And I completed my journey in 2013 December, and I finished the book in 5th in July. So that's 1.5 years actually. And the whole publishing journey is, I think, last can say, Rajat can add on that. I mean, like every writer goes through the publisher's journey, like the pitching to all the publishers and rejection, etc. But on a contrast, Rajat said, okay, the publisher already pitched him. I mean, like, he's agreed to publish the book. So in my case, it was different. I mean, like, I could not convince. I mean, no one said yes, no one said no. So finally, in 2016, actually, I did a self-publishing. And the same working Bookfairs, Bhubaneswar, actually, we released the book. And but finally, Bookfairs by somehow convinced to speaking Tigers, and finally my book again re-released Speaking Tigers in 2021 November, if I'm not wrong. And now, but the good publishers is very much important because if it is not available in the market, then how come people will know about your experience? So there is no point of giving times of years and no one able to get your book. So in a way, actually, I am very thankful to Working Bookfare for that matter, and I am associated with Working Bookfare from the very beginning, actually, and 2015, 16, I think, and so. Okay.
I think your story shows in a way how a bookshop can be a catalyst for so many other kinds of literary energy, and that is one of the reasons why it was my hope that today would be a special day in our memories, just for this reason, that we set up a new kind of story in our Cuttack bookstore. Okay, I'm going to finish with one little travel story of my own, if you will permit me, and with one little question for you, and then a question from the audience. A few years ago, I used to live in Delhi, and the Delhi summers are intolerable. But the best thing about India is that summers are also when you get the best fruit, watermelon, different kinds of melon, and different kinds of mangoes. And I would wait for July and August to eat chausa, all these other great mangoes. And I remember from my childhood in Bombay, the mangoes of West India. And every now and then you will see a piece about mangoes in Indian newspapers, which would mention some of the varieties which you had not tasted. And it occurred to me that most Indians eat lots of mangoes but have not eaten most of the mango varieties of India. We all eat very deeply within a small range. And somehow the idea came to me that it would be amazing to spend a few days of my life only eating the different mangoes of our country. And I called up all the people I knew to ask about tips about. The other thing is that sometimes mangoes are localized to a region or to a particular month or even a week of the year. So if you want to make a trip of 15 or 20 days, you can have to as many hotspots as possible within that by moving all across the country. And well, this is route of my own. And even now, I don't think when I think back on my travel writing life, I can't remember 15 days better than this, where within 4 days, I eaten more different kinds of mangoes than I had in my first 40 years of my life. And these discoveries, to know that just outside the perimeter of what we know about our country, lies a much bigger country that requires legs and a mind and a route to discover. Is, I think, the greatest pleasure. It makes all the sweat of travel writing worth it. And what really surprised me about my trip wasn't just there were amazing mangoes to eat of different kinds of flavors and tastes. Sometimes I would take a mango back across the country to share with other friends of mine. But I found that the mango growing people of India are some of the most beautiful Indians you can meet. And mangoes are very closely associated in Indian culture with hospitality. We have extra work for eating in Hindi and in Indian languages, which is not there in English. Khilana, to share or to feed somebody. And many of the mango growers I met were not just experts in mangoes, they were experts in mango grafting, and they highly developed theories of what grafting meant. Now, I met this mango grower, India's most famous mango grower, Kalyan in Lucknow, who had a tree which has more than 100 varieties of mangoes from the same tree trunk, grafted, different branches grafted over the year, And when you walk around this tree, every 5 to 10 degrees of 10 meters, you see different color and different size of mango. And I said, this is one of the most greatest miracles of creation I've ever seen in my life. And he said, to make two from one is the very principle of life. And just for the pleasure of getting these thoughts under the trees where these things were grown. So the last thought I want from you before we take any questions is, from your trips, did you come back with some sense of an altered sense of what it means to be Indian from when you started?
Like, one thing you realize when you're traveling across India is that India inhabits multiple senses in a way that you cannot possibly imagine sitting in your house. One experience that really brought this back home was when I was in Kashmir, and I was hitchhiking with truck drivers in Kashmir, and my fellow hitchhikers there were members of the Gujjar Bakarwar nomadic tribe. So these are the nomadic tribe which has carried out this, it's a process called transhumance, where in the summer months, these tribes, along with their flock of goats and sheep, they move from the flatlands of Jammu to the mountain pastures of Kashmir. And every winter they make the same journey back down. And earlier they would travel on horses and they would take along their flock along, but now they have ditched the horses and they have adopted trucks as the way to travel from Jammu to Srinagar. So this fact really, and they've not altered in any significant way. Their lifestyle, in that sense, apart from the trucks, has been the same for millennia or at least a few centuries. And just talking to them, getting to know how their life was, I think, one of those kind of memorable experiences where you realize there is a layer of India hidden behind, beneath the sedentary society as we know, people like us. There is a different layer of India which somehow we miss all the time. And nomadic people as a subject has long been a source of fascination for me, which in part is why I even decided to do Truck India, because truckers are the modern day nomads. In that sense, they are professional nomads who are out there traveling day in and day out across the country. But apart from the truckers and the Gujjars and the Bakarwas, every state has their share of pastoralists who live a completely different life and whose lives are essentially unchanged. So that is one fact that really stuck deep in my heart.
Like I have already told about different experiences. So, I was very fascinated about the Gujarat chapter, what I said already. So I shouldn't anything else you know.
Okay. I noticed that in contrast to others, your trip was highly structured, a week in every state. Were there some places where you actually felt, whether because of the place itself or people you met, that you didn't want to leave when it was time to leave?
Yeah, many times actually, this happened. And in Manipur, actually, I was talking to the person also where I was staying with the family. His mother, actually, we used to talk a lot. For almost a week. I feel like a home. So, what is my perception before going to the northeastern states of India? It's like it's almost similar. That was our usual perception. But Manipur having a very different. They have their own religion. Now people call it as Hinduism, but they have their own religion called Sonamahi. And if you wake up in a Manipur house, you almost feel like a Odia. Like the same Tulsi Chokra, a similar kind of flora and fauna. Almost someone like almost similar. Even the Krishna, the dance, I think it's called Rasila or something like that. It's very popular in Manipur. So that is one angle of Vaishnavism also. What is very similar to this. So I feel like home in Manipur, and when I left Manipur, I mean like my friend's mother actually, I would say, she was almost like for a long time. I feel, okay, I'm just going out on my own. So that's kind of experience, or maybe Gujarat also when I was staying with the Manas family. I had a fever because since I was traveling for almost like 6-7 months, my health was not that good, and suddenly you are traveling for a very hot state to a very cold state, and so I feel very. I had a high fever that time, and they are our mothers like it's very caring. I mean, so I feel like home in most part of India, and so this is I created many families around India actually in many part of the state. So instead of traveling and staying in lodges, I mean try to make friends and stay in their home so that you can learn their actual tradition, actual how they eat, what is their food habit. For example, one more thing. Since we are from in the hill areas, people call the mainland. These people are from mainland. So and mainland people like dal. That's their perception. Okay. So what happened in Gujarat? They had made dal, and every day they do pizza and give it to me. 2 days I just realized that the same dal is like serving and they are serving. I said, no, it's not necessary that every day we used to have dal, and obviously you cannot have the same dal. So that's what. It's very important to communicate also. Whatever your likes, dislikes, and everything, and go travel India and make your own families in every part of the state. That's what I would like to see.
Lovely, lovely. Are there any people who would like to ask questions?
Hello sir, I have some question about travel writing. And so my question is that writing to me is mostly attachment. So when you try to find a way to write about a city you're traveling, how much time do you have to spend, and is it the amount of time that you have to spend so that you attach yourself to the city? And then when you try to write, do you have this insecurity that you have known the city enough to write about it? Or do you feel like sometimes an outsider because you are not the actual inhabitant of the city? So how much attachment do you have to the city? And also if you are traveling for a long time, there is also a feeling of homesickness. Like I am from Kalyan and I have been here for like 6 months, but still when I go to my home, it feels it's a very different type of ecstasy. And if I want to write about Cuttack, how can I write about Cuttack if I am feeling homesick all the time? So there is a dichotomy of contrasting interests there. The question is about attachment and homesickness. Sir.
I can give a small answer to that because someone else does. It's true that as a travel writer, when you arrive in some place, for instance, if I was a travel writer about Cuttack, I could never hope, unless I lived here for 10 or 15 years, to have Devdas Babu's intimate knowledge of certain very particular details. You know, a line that in a Cuttack is built from the plundering of Bhubaneswar. It's not an insight that you can arrive at right away. But as a counterbalance against that, there is this kind of superpower that travel writer has, which others don't, which is that the power of fresh perception. You know, even when you go into your own city for a month or two and you return, everything seems new to you in a way that it does not when it is your daily life. And that results in a very rich stream of perceptions, which if you have managed to make note of them. And that's why when journeys like your own, when you're on the road all the time, every day is endlessly new. And there's no reason to feel as if one is missing out on something deep. That's what can be picked up by a layer of conversations and attachments and structure. But in the end, your own self is the best travel equipment there is, isn't it?
I feel if you are a stranger in a new city, you are at an advantage in many ways. Because those who have lived in that city for the longest time, for their familiarity breeds neglect and contempt often. They won't bother to notice the things that you will notice as a complete outsider. So be conscious of your position as an outsider and as someone who does not know a lot. just acknowledge that. But at the same time, there will be many insights that you will bring out. Like for me also, after living outside India for a year, I feel that after coming back to India, I'm looking at things in a different way, for sure. Like, I mean, sometimes the best way to know about your country is to leave it. So the same holds true also for your cities, for your immediate surroundings, and even if it's a completely new city, every city has a certain personality. It may be an imagined personality, but it is a personality that you eventually bring out through your writing. And with your interactions with the inhabitants of the city, with the city itself, you eventually come to arrive at some final assessment of what a city is like. So I think that's how you proceed with writing about a city you are not that familiar with.
So like you said that you have an attachment towards your home city. Okay. So once you travel, you never know, you will get more attachment, you will have more affairs with different cities, right? So once you travel around different part of whether it's India or like in part of the world, you never know where you'll get your own attachment, right? So right now you are studying, so you are feeling that you are very homesick and very attachment, but you never know, you will have 28 affairs in 28 states of India. Okay.
Okay, who's next?
Hello. Actually, coincidentally, this year I am reading the book in the exact sequence you are reading. I started this year reading a book during Shri. Then in the middle of the year, I read 3 books by Chandra Sir, and I am currently reading a book by you. We are actually good friends since 2015. I followed it for the sheer volume of books you are reading every year. So I was absent from today's, and when I got back, I saw that you have written a book. So I started reading a book, and I read it last week. I read it on history. So my question is, when you write your traveler, you see that whatever happened during the journey, that is very organic, not in our control. But when you narrate a story, that is in your control. So how much you are tempted that because this is my story, I'm going to tell it in a way that I see it. So you take, for example, a non-fictional aspect of a story and you extrapolate it to the fictional realism that this will be a very beautiful story. So this is my story, I'm going to make it as beautiful as I feel. So that's my question.
I think there is definitely, whenever you omit something, there will be parts you omit in any narrative. You can't possibly include everything. So every act of omission is an act of choice in a way, what you want to highlight in your story. For me, of course, it's not necessary. For me, what's most important is when I am crafting a narrative, what's most important is that the reader should not be bored. That's all I really care about actually. My only fidelity is towards the reader, at the same time towards my own authentic experience also. In the sense that I cannot, as a non-fiction writer, I cannot make up things for sure. But at the same time, I don't want to include everything I did. So, for example, in Radhe India, I'm sure I covered like 20 to 25% of what I actually experienced. Like I personally focused on not wanting to make the book about myself. That was very important for me in that sense, because I wanted the book to be about the drivers, about their life. I mean, I am just a participant observer in that sense for this book. So that was my focus in crafting this narrative. Every writer will have their different objectives or their different focus on what they want to highlight from what they experience. That will vary from writer to writer, I would say, and it's a completely subjective call. But as a writer, my personal feeling is that the writing should be clear, should not be boring to read, and it should have some narrative to keep the reader there.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, so we can also run through some more questions. Last.
Hello, everyone. As I'm a student, I want to know how which skills should be I develop to write the traveling stories and I have the insight to write something, but the words, the proper way, sentence making, I didn't put it in a proper way. So I used to step back. And my imagination are all about in my brains and my dreams only. Because I could not express in my words and a way to write and how the, like the sir has told that about the track. That is, you have written so many well, you have the experience that how it will be written and how that it will be attract the audience. But if I will write, it will be a creative story I am saying about it, the incident I am saying about it. But I want to say, as I am now a student, I want to write what steps should be written that I could be a good writer of traveling. As sir has mentioned that while you are traveling, keep a pocket diary as to mention the incident. But if I will mention all the incident in a bits of or a little words, if I will elaborate it as I can mix up with the natures and all, as we can say that if I suppose I am going to Western Odisha, the nature will be more attractive than the journey. I am damn sure. Nature and its cultures are more beautiful than the experience we are going to travel through the state. I want to know that how we should learn how to write the travel.
I feel every piece of travel writing is like composed of three broad parts, I would say. One is your description of the surroundings. Without that, there is no travel. You might as well be in your home. So, description of the surroundings. One is what you yourself are feeling when you are placed in those surroundings and when you are going through the motions of a travel. And the third field, I think, which is often underemphasized is the context, the background. What is the history of the place you are going to? What is the culture of what is the society of the place you are going to? What is that like? So these three, in a way, combine together to make up a travel narrative. It's a very broad generalization. It's not true at all. It's not generally true. But so you can, like when you're saying the nature is nice, then you need to develop a facility for describing that nature and conveying it to your audience. You can also describe what you yourself are feeling when you are going through it. And for example, Western Odisha has a culture, has a history which I'm sure many people are not aware of. You can write about that. There's so many things you can write. Essentially, I would say in India, as a travel writer, you are spoiled for choice. You have too many things to write about, and the focus should be on narrowing what you want to write about. Because the world is very, very interesting, and India is particularly interesting. So just carry on, I would say. Just do write more and more, and you'll get there soon.
To become better in. And for that reason, we also put together behind us a little selection of travel books that we hope some of you will browse through and buy and take home. My favorite travel writers all through, and whenever I feel bogged down or even by life, I only need to read a page or two of them to realize what it is that we live for. There's something about an amazing combination of intensity of manner, depth of perception, and which is one of the greats. Everyone must love different one. So, I think our intention of putting together this festival today was to bring together some live examples. So we must thank Rajat for having joined us on Pavan and Jubana Shivana. We even thank myself for having joined us from Bhubaneswar. And to bring together travel books, travelers and travel writers in one frame. So thank you so much for having spent the entire morning with us. I hope that for those of you for whom it is your first morning in this bookstore, this is only the first of many over the years. And we should say a thank you to our very gracious hosts, Akshay and Shatabdi, also two of the best travelers.
This is a bus terminal, and people come here and go every day. And many actually don't know where they are going. And when we started long back, 10 years back, we didn't know where to go. And when you don't know where to go, actually, you end up in a very nice place. And if you really know where to go, don't know, you want to be doctors, engineers, that's also travel. You should never know where to go. I don't know why. I always feel like that. Travel is about finding new things. So please find new places. And the idea of doing it in Cuttack was because you have Bali Yatra and people traveled from Odisha to Bali 200 years back. Now you're scared of going to Cuttack, like Bhubaneswar also. Like, I cannot go. So my maternal great grandfather got lost in Myanmar, Burma. Nobody knows what happened to him. But I like this story, We should get lost in this world. So many places. So please support any bookshops you have because these are your communities. It's not mine. I don't write all these books. This is a place where I keep your stories. A lot of people think that you make a profit out of it. Of course I make a profit because I also need to survive, to sustain this place, to keep it up for the society. It's not a charitable trust. Charity is when you help it, when you support it, not donate. I don't need anybody's donation. All the writers, people who write stories, they should be read, they should be appreciated because this is the only way they can survive. And keep more bookshops and Cuttack, thank you so much for giving us the space. Nikhil is not here, but Nikhil was made sure that we get space in Cuttack. And thank you all the people in Cuttack, also in Bhubaneswar. So we have another session in the evening in Cuttack, in Bhubaneswar. And we are going to come back to Cuttack every year because this is the first one, next year and then more and more. And thank you all, Rajat, Rajat, this is Taipei, we've been in contact, we talk to each other on WhatsApp and I asked her to come to this. We didn't even know that this is going to come out. Last year we were thinking it was going to be good. Thank you. Thanks to so many people who came up. Chief Gibanasha is always there, so I wanted to thank him. He's there, house family. Chandra is a friend and also like a very close friend now because we always meet to talk. All of you, I think many of you, I think all the time. And Mr. Vedant Chopra, and thank you. And I'm very, very thankful to you that you made time and came here. And now we must all make a move. We have more snacks if you all want to eat and get going and have lunch somewhere and leave and start again. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Buy books.